Ann and I are thrilled to have you meet our special guest today. He is considered to be one of the most entertaining and original thinkers and speakers in the world when it comes to marketing disruption and innovation. Rohit Bhargava is the founder of the Non-Obvious Company. He is an entrepreneur of 3 successful companies. He is the Wall Street Journal best-selling author of 7 books, including his most recent released book, The Non-Obvious Megatrends. And he also teaches marketing and storytelling at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And also, and most importantly, he's just an all-around really nice guy. And so we're so happy to have him. Welcome, Rohit.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be talking with you and with your audience too. I mean, it's such a interesting time, but an exciting topic because I think it's really important. So I'm really happy to be here. To me, a big way to describe what I've been thinking about is with this word afterward, which is what happens afterward. What do we do next? And that's kind of the lens for which I've been talking about this for now, but also in the past. And if you're not familiar with the book or with me or with any of this this background, for the last 10 years, I've been publishing this book every year that is all about trends and how to see the world a little bit differently and trying to help organizations and leaders figure out what it takes to be what I call a non-obvious thinker, somebody who sees the world in a different way and can spot the opportunities that exist before anyone else. And in some sense, if you can do that, if you can spot opportunities before anyone else and change faster to and accommodate disruption, you can actually predict the future because you can see where the world is going to go. And that's a lot of what I talk about and a lot of what I have talked about over the past 10 years. The best method to try and prepare ourselves mentally to be able to succeed is by using these 5 habits, these habits that I consider to be the 5 habits of trend curators or non-obvious thinkers. And they are quite simply be observant, see what other people miss, be curious, ask more questions, be thoughtful, take time to think, be elegant, choose your words very considered, in a considered way, and be fickle. And being fickle to me means save an idea and move on to other things, move on to other ideas. And my definition of a trend is a unique, curated observation of the accelerating present. That's what I consider a trend to be. And so those are the 5 habits of being a non-obvious thinker, being a trend curator. Be observant, be curious, be thoughtful, be elegant, and be fickle. And that is those are the 5 mindsets.
Yeah, I mean, what is your prediction as far as the non-obvious trends that are resulting from this time that we're going through right now as the world is changing into virtual events?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big questions I get asked for predictable reasons is what are the big trends? Because I published a book about mega trends 2 months before the pandemic hit. And so one of the crazy questions that raises is, are they all, you have to throw them all out the window? Like, are they all irrelevant now? And actually, what I found is, yes, some of them have maybe stalled a little bit, but the ones that have taken off have really taken off in terms of accelerated much faster than they perhaps would have otherwise. So really what I talk about in the definition that I shared is that I focus on the accelerating present. And I think if anything, for some of these trends, the pandemic has accelerated the present much faster than it would have otherwise. So let's talk about a couple of these, right? So one of them is a trend that I call the human mode. And the human mode was this idea even before the pandemic that when we're surrounded by technology, we value human interaction more. And now that we're in a moment where we're sheltered and we have to isolate, we value it even more than that. And so what we're seeing is lots of examples of this sort of playing out. So you're seeing it in media and entertainment too. So John Krasinski creating his Good News Network, which has gone hugely viral on YouTube, where he just talks about really interesting, great stories. And he's a nice guy and we like to listen to him. And so it works. Like, he just does a really great job. And for those types of human connections, and we have people doing really beautiful, genuine, heartfelt things. So here's a Broadway actress who saw all of these kids, high school kids who had their musicals canceled, and said, look, you can perform, post a video, and I'll be your audience. Like, I'll listen to your show. And it's such a beautiful thing to do for other people who were really devastated that they wouldn't get to have their shows. And so the stealable idea behind the human mode is, how do we focus on empathy first? Like, how do we start with empathy? Second big megatrend, instant knowledge. So in this space where we can get everything delivered to us online, and now we have distance learning too, the question is like, how is our expectation of learning itself changing? And there were all sorts of stories about this. So there was like a story of an 8-year-old who taught himself how to drive by going on YouTube, which is terrifying to me as a parent of 2 boys. And I know for sure my 8-year-old could not reach the pedal. So this must have been a tall 8-year-old. But either way, you know, he taught himself how to drive, and he went to McDonald's because he had the munchies, right? And this kid,
I love how he went to McDonald's.
Yeah, I know.
Of course he
But
did.
it's like, you know, what's this kid going to say in 10 years when he has that conversation about college, right? Is he going to say, yeah, I'll go to college for 4 years? Or is he going to say, you know, when I was 8, I taught myself how to drive on YouTube. Like, do I really need 4 more years of education? And I grew up through the pandemic with distance learning. Like, do I need to go to school in order to learn something anywhere around the world? We have all sorts of stuff that used to be gated or that wasn't available to us becoming available for free. Huge archives of information, videos, distance learning materials. I mean, all of these are great examples of that. And I launched my own guide series around this trend. So this is an example of me using the trend for something that I was doing, which is we launched an entire guidebook series called the Non-Obvious Guides that are the anti-dummies and anti-idiots guides, because I don't think people today describe themselves as dummies or idiots. I think that, you know, most people want to have advice that is kind of, you know, genuine from people who they respect, and they figure that they can come up with it. Like, they can come up with it. And the one that I just wrote around this time, which we're going to give you a link to in the special URL that you can download for entirely for free, is the Non-Obvious Guide to Virtual Meetings and Remote Work. And so a lot of the tips that I shared here around like presenting, setting up the video, like, you know, staying concentrated, all of those sorts of things, they're all part of this book that you will be able to download totally for free. And hopefully it'll be useful for you and just give you some new insights. And so the stealable idea here is connect people with that knowledge, to inspire their beliefs, like connect them with that knowledge, because that's a great role for us to take, because we have a lot of this content. We have a lot of this information that we can share with people. And the last megatrend that I'll share with you is something that I called revivalism. And revivalism was just the sense that when we don't know what to believe, we turn inward and towards the past. So we go back to the analog experiences we remember. We start listening to music on vinyl. You know, Kodak is making film again, if you can believe it. Like, they're making film. You have that, you have board games that people are playing, classic video games that they're playing. And all of this, I think, points to, in this moment now, yes, we're at home, but even before that, we don't necessarily want everything to be technology. We want to rediscover the analog. And to me, all of these trends and what all of these themes point back to is this quote from Isaac Asimov that I love, which is, "I'm not a speed reader, I'm a speed understander." And I think if we could use some of these lessons, if we could think about how to be a virtual presenter and a virtual collector of information, you know, if we could think about using these habits to be more curious, to be more observant, if we could start to collect this information and just see the world a little bit differently, I think we could all bring a little bit of this ability to be a speed understander into what we do. And I think that'd be a really powerful way to start thinking. So I think it can change a lot of how we think. And I really hope that some of these lessons here help people to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Rod. This has been it's been really interesting and so informative, and I feel like we could keep our conversation going for hours, but I know you've been very generous in your time.
We definitely can. So I'll leave you with one last thing. I mean, like I said, we have the URL in the notes for everybody. But also, I'd love to hear from anyone directly. For anyone who just wants to get in touch, I'm always happy to converse, see if I can help with some of the great things that you're doing in any way. I have lots and lots of ideas. So if any of that is helpful, I'm always happy to do that.
As Rohit mentioned, we will have the link to sign up for his newsletter and to download the PDF of the Non-Obvious Guide to Virtual Meetings and Remote Work. And thank you again. This has been great.
Thank you.